Welcome to the official YouTube channel for me, the Colin Cowherd Podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of our football content this postseason. Going to have instant reactions after every big game. Thanks. Instant reaction. First, let's start with the Chargers 32-12 loss to the Texans. So it's interesting that it was the Texans who last year, as DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud rebuild the Houston Texans, they were the Chargers. They faced the Baltimore Ravens, got crushed in the playoffs, only had 10 first downs. Today, in a baby steps league, the Chargers were last year's Texans. So Justin Herbert, 4 picks, didn't have a good day. But it was always about the big picture with this franchise. So it was a really good job, but it wasn't a really good locker room. It wasn't a good culture. And they had to let their best receiver go to the Chicago Bears. So we all knew as they were winning this year, and I predicted 10 to 11 wins. I thought they would be really good immediately. But their defense is more set than their offense. They need a running back. They need another receiver or two. They need another tight end. They don't have enough playmakers. And so it forces Justin Herbert to make plays that against good teams on the road are tough to make. You just have to remember about this. Young quarterbacks have bad playoff games. Older quarterbacks do, but Joe Montana, years and years ago, it was a strike abbreviated season. I think the Niners went 12-2, 13-2, and they were going to play a playoff game against Minnesota Vikings. Montana got benched. He was so bad in the playoff game. Joe Montana got benched. The GOAT before Tom Brady was benched in a playoff game. Brett Favre, who could be wild and a bit reckless, once threw 6 interceptions in a playoff game. You can go look it up. It was against the Rams. I think it was the greatest show on turf Rams. It was early 2000s, 2001. Brett was trying to make plays. And to keep up with the Rams, 6 picks in a playoff game. I remember when I was a kid, it's like a trivia question. Dan Fouts, who to me was like Drew Brees accurate. To me, he was the most accurate thrower of the football. I don't know what his career completion percentage was, but Dan Fouts was an incredibly accurate quarterback. Beautiful, feathery touch. He had his worst day as a pro. I don't know all his days, but it had to have been his only 5 interception game in the playoffs. And one player had 4 of them. I mean, Dan Fouts, Joe Montana, Brett Favre. Again, quarterbacks trying to make plays. Quarterbacks, as big favorites, Joe Montana. It happens. I mean, Lamar started 0-2 in the playoffs. Peyton Manning 0-2. Eli Manning 0-2. It's hard. And this offense, again, their best receivers in Chicago. They needed a right tackle, and they drafted Ladd McConkey, but it was just the beginning. This second draft, this second free agent period, they also had a bunch of, cap limitations this year. It was about steps. Just like last year when Houston took over, it was a mess as a franchise. The fact they got to the playoffs was remarkable. And like Herbert, very early last year, CJ Stroud's pretty good. And he was. Also, it should be noted that CJ Stroud, as a young quarterback, is a much better quarterback at home. So the Houston Texans this year were a hard team to figure out. I said this, I picked them to make the playoffs, I think, but a lot of people thought they would step back, and they did. But C.J. Stroud was a little bit all over the map when he didn't have Stephon Diggs or he didn't have Joe Mixon. But at home, I said this Friday on TV, at home he's very good. At home he's now 12-5 with a passer rating over 100. Like a lot of quarterbacks, he is more comfortable when he's at home. He's got pretty decent protection. He was spinning it. So Houston had 400 yards of offense. The Chargers, and we saw this about a month ago with the Chargers when they got blown out by Tampa. When they get up against an offense that's humming or Herbert struggling to get time to throw and he starts forcing stuff. Remember, Chargers got blown out at home by Tampa, Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. That gave up a 40 spot. So I just think this was a bad team, now it's a good team. This was a bad culture, now it's a good culture. Last year, I thought the Chargers with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams had more firepower. And Austin Eckler, well, they're all gone. And so I stayed away from this game. I did not make it part of my Blazing Five. I'm like, it's a stay away game. I did think the Chargers were a team that matched up with some of the better teams in the AFC. I thought they matched up with Kansas City pretty well. A team that, again, Kansas City's got a lot of good players, good coach, good quarterback, good pass rush, but kind of you'd want them to have one or two more offensive pieces. I thought they matched up very well with Kansas City, but we'll never know as they go down to defeat. Again, I just look at what Jim Harbaugh's future is going to be. Remember Jim Harbaugh at Michigan the beginning of his career? 10 wins first season. What happened to Jim Harbaugh first several years at Michigan? He made the team immediately good. Couldn't win bowl games. Couldn't beat Ohio State. Struggled to beat Michigan State. So it's just a process. One of the things that frustrates me is that I try to stay away from recency bias and confirmation bias. And I make mistakes all the time on that. But go back, Jim Harbaugh, it was amazing to watch all these commentators in college football crushing Jim Harbaugh for years. Michigan with Brady Hoke was a mess. The Chargers with Brandon Staley were a mess. Your first year Nick Saban was at Alabama. He lost to Louisiana Monroe at home. The first year is about building culture, changing the locker room, and Harbaugh did that. I didn't feel great about this game. I didn't make it one of my 5 picks. I didn't expect this. I thought they would win. I thought they had the better coach and the better quarterback, but it's a road game for a Charger team that's still trying to break through chargering and even good plays. I mean, they get the touchdown, then the PAT's blocked, other way for 2 points. I mean, if you could have guessed a team that happened to in the playoffs, you could be, well, that would happen to the Chargers. It happened to the Chargers. Listen, Justin Herbert had more interceptions today, 4, than he had all season 3. And I think there's a mindset in the regular season. You live for another play, you live for another day. But in the playoffs, it's sudden death. And you get into a game and you're on the road and trailing, you're going to try to squeeze stuff in. That is what has happened to even great quarterbacks in playoff games. You get on the road, you face a high-octane offense, or you start to trail. There is no tomorrow. So I think a lot of times a quarterback can be a little bit more patient in the regular season, but there's a lot of great quarterbacks with a lot of bad playoff games. Carson Palmer, you can look it up, had one of these where the ball is the game starts rolling, it gets out of your hands. You got to make plays. What are you going to sit back? You going to play it safe? And I thought Herbert tried to squeeze some balls in. And again, he had a big play to Ladd McConkey. But, I mean, McConkey is not a number 1 in this league. He's a 2, and he could be a very good 2 as a slot guy. But, you start squeezing stuff in, you try to force it, and it happens. Herbert is a 6'6", 240-pound, smart, dependable, reliable, strong-arm kid who can move a little bit. He's going to be fine. He's more athletic, in my opinion, than C.J. Stroud, and they have some similarities. They're big, strong kids who can move a little. They can be very accurate throwers, and they have bad games. It happens. There's a reason Jim Harbaugh took this job. There's a reason the Chargers were the number 1 job last year. It wasn't because of their left tackle. It wasn't because of the owners or the overall roster. It was because of Justin Herbert. It's the same reason Mike Vrabel is going to take the Patriots job, because Drake May is a really, really good-looking young quarterback with a bright future. NFL playoffs? We're talking about NFL playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is a key to winning in the NFL playoffs, and the key to you scoring big is betting on them. At DraftKings, the number 1 place to bet touchdowns. If you're ready to place your first bet, make it really simple. A player scoring a touchdown. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook's app, download it, make your pick. Here's another reason to watch your favorite players crush it on the playoffs. If you're a new customer, you bet $5, that's it. $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly by betting just $5. So score big, DraftKings Sportsbook during the playoffs. Download the app, use the code Colin, COLIN. That will get you $200 in bonus bets if you bet the $200. So if you want $200 in bonus bets, you got to put in the code Colin. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Thursday or Friday, I listed the jobs, the NFL job openings, the 6 NFL job openings, and I said New England was the best job. And I said, I put myself into it. What would I look for? And I've said this forever. You can't chase just money in the world. Money matters. Not saying that. It absolutely matters. But to me, it's always been 2 to good management, always in my career, and I believe this. So the Bears management, the Jets management, the Raiders management, the Jags management, you start looking around. Robert Kraft and your quarterback for the future, Drake May. That made New England the best job. And reportedly, Jordan Schultz putting it out there. Mike Vrabel is negotiating with New England, probably brings Josh McDaniel. You know, they say you can't go home again, but there are multiple examples for a lot of people going home again. I know a lot of people in my life, broadcasters who have started out and they had to travel around to 2 or 3 markets, and they end up going back to the place they grew up or the market they love, and they're so much happier. There's so much comfort. Mike Vrabel has comfort. Ohio State guy, New England guy. He's got comfort in that cold weather and physical football, and the New England market loves it. And I've been saying this for years. Find me a lot of great long-term dynasties in the NFL in warm weather. Find them. New England had one. Kansas City had one. The Pittsburgh Steelers had one. I mean, Miami was great with Don Shula. How many Super Bowls they get to? Dan Marino got to 1. I think the lifestyle, the warm weather, the dome teams, you get comfortable. You look at the teams, the best teams in the NFL right now. It is Philadelphia. It is Baltimore. It is Buffalo. It is Kansas City. Tough, physical, cold weather. I can remember as a kid growing up and loving Big East basketball. Here I am, growing up in the coast of Washington, and I loved Big East basketball, where John Thompson and the late Louis Carnesecca and Rolly Massimino and PJ Carlissimo. And the reason I loved it, because it was tough, Big East, fights, and physical. And there is something to be said about that in football. Cold weather, tougher players, tougher team, tougher identity. The Seahawks in that crappy, windy, rainy, cold weather in Seattle in November, December, January almost built a dynasty. So I think Vrabel fits New England. I think stability at ownership. Robert Kraft has a reputation as frugal. Most billionaires are. And I think Drake May looks really, really talented. And the other thing is, you're entering an organization that you're familiar with, you're comfortable with, and that you trust. That's really an important thing. I've gone on and on about this. It's hard to trust coaches. It's hard to trust owners now. They're all billionaires. They're getting crazier. There's never been a time in my life we've had more crazy owners. Thankfully, Dan Snyder's gone. We got rid of one that just kind of inappropriate and a bad pro sports owner. And the guys now that run Washington look to be on the up and up and really formidable people. But ownership, it all starts with there. And the Krafts don't have a history. Gerard Mayo didn't work. It didn't work. It's okay. Again, the only perfect people are anonymous trolls on the internet. When you put yourself out there as an owner, as a mayor, you take swings, you miss. It's okay. People with high confidence and feel good about themselves put themselves out there. It's okay. You can swing on a coach and miss. I think Vrabel to New England. I think it's the best job. I think he's the best candidate. Last year, I thought the best job and the best candidate was Harbaugh and the Chargers. And I also think because the Jets and Dolphins' history of instability and chaos outside of Buffalo, you're going to be battling, for the number 2 spot in that division for years. Josh Allen's probably going to win it the next 5 years in his prime, but he'll age. They do. I like Vrabel. Not even Tom Brady could talk him into the Raiders. Mike Vrabel's too smart. Brady leaned on him. Brady met with him. Brady talked to him. Brady wanted to talk him into taking that Raiders gig. Vrabel's too smart. Can't do it. You can't trust Mark Davis. Not at this point.
I judge the quality of a fragrance by the compliments you get. When I wore Ovation for the first time, second time, and third time, usually I walk past somebody and they're like, hey, What you got on? Who over there smelling good? You know, that's the injection of confidence right there to you.
That's right. We want to be at the forefront of using the brand as a gateway for these young athletes. Custom suit, we do a photo shoot, we do video, and it's all about that partnership to create a personal brand.
And I love you guys associating it with more sophistication. Throwing a suit on a kid, sometimes it takes for you to see yourself with a suit on in the mirror to be like, hey, I have more to offer.
Ovation for Men, we're part of Amazon's Black Business Accelerator. You know, Amazon has invested $150 million for the next 4 years to uplift small businesses like myself to scale. You know, Amazon is really putting their money where their mouth is.
They're committed to excellence on every level. They want to scale these businesses to be amongst the best in whatever industry they're in.
You've always been authentic. You've always been pushing excellence.
Well, I appreciate that.
As our slogan says, every man deserves an ovation.
Yes, sir.
Listen, this relationship with Ovation for Men, Richard Sherman, The Volume, this is just the beginning.
I appreciate you guys letting me be a part of your journey. If you haven't already checked them out, go out there, get your man some. And get the sport too. And it can be Christmas, birthday, holidays, or yesterday. But make sure you get it.